Okay, bit of good advice now to take on board, because this next story we're going to tell you about, this will resonate you if you're a parent, if you're someone looking after children. It is actually one of the most common injuries a child will sustain, but scald and burns is what we're talking about, and they can leave, it has to be said, a painful legacy for the rest of a child's life.
One mum who's living with the knowledge is Faye Holdsworth. As she dresses her daughter's scars each day, it's a reminder of the damage that just a small amount of boiling liquid can do. Today, Faye's here with Dr. Dawn Harper to talk about the day her daughter's life changed forever. Probably one of the most terrifying things that you think could happen to your child, and it's actually happened to you. So talk us through what happened.
We were visiting my father in hospital, and we went to get a drink, because it's quite a trek on the way home, and I had a pushchair with Georgie laying down in it, and I had a tray of drinks, a lemonade and a coffee, and the lemonade fell over and knocked the coffee directly onto her in the buggy. So the guy did ask if I needed a hand with the tray, but I just said, no, you know, as a mother you think you can do it. Oh, yeah,
you need it.
I know, and, you know, the look of shock on her face when it actually hit her, she didn't cry straight away. She didn't start crying until I started screaming. But because we were in a hospital, all I did was scream for help, and I took her clothes off, and we caused such a scene. Well,
you know, if there was any blessing, of course, to be had with this, the fact you were in a hospital. We're going to show you some pictures now of little Georgia. We do have to warn you that you are going to see burns. You're going to see significant burns here, so if you can't feel that you can handle that, then look away now. But Dr. Dawn, talk us through what we're seeing here.
Well, that's a classic burn, isn't it? And you can see that it's really very extensive. The issue is in children under 5, particularly, their skin is much more fragile, and they're much more vulnerable. I mean, there isn't a mum in this country that hasn't carried a tray of hot drinks or carried a hot drink around a toddler. But it's so, you know, you hear your story and you think, they're by the grace of God, really, because that was just
you never think, like, there are so many times that you just have a drink. It's such a natural thing to do. But as Eamon said, thank goodness you were in a hospital.
But why? But it wasn't actually immediately medical aid that that you sought. It was a hairdresser's. Tell us why.
Yeah, an off-duty doctor came after hearing the noise, and we all ran round to the hairdressers, because that was the first place where we could get clean water, because the water that they gave us in the restaurant, it was in a bucket or a bowl or something. It wasn't particularly clean, so we went round there, and then the crash team came and met us there. While she was being doused down in the hairdresser's bowl, there was a nurse there doing it. Obviously, you know, medically controlled. I wouldn't have been able to do it myself, because I was in such a state. But it was pretty horrific. And,
what percentage of burns did Georgia receive?
She suffered 17.5%. There was burns on her face, on her torso, on her arms. The facial burn healed so quickly, within a week or so, it scabbed over. But the deeper ones, there was 2.5% full thickness. They were the ones that went on to be grafted.
Now, Dawn, what does that mean on a young child like that as opposed to an adult? We are talking about children here, but I know someone, for instance, who last year was at a function in a golf club, and the waitress dropped a teapot over her. Terrible burns and scalds as a result.
Well, you know, obviously they're littler, so it's much easier to burn a greater proportion of their body, and poor little Georgia's got, you know, almost 1/5 of her body burnt. As you said, thankfully the ones on the face were very superficial, and so those do heal better.
Can young children recover from that easier than an adult, or not?
No, I think it depends on the thickness of the burn. So a superficial burn you can heal from much better. The cosmetic result at the end will be much better. If you get a full thickness burn, interestingly, you were talking about she didn't scream at first. People often say, well, it can't be too bad because it doesn't hurt. A full thickness burn, of course, will actually go through the pain fibres, and you won't necessarily be aware of it as a painful experience. So often, if a burn doesn't hurt, that actually might be a worse outlook.
How did she deal with the treatment?
She was brilliant. I mean, they were obviously giving her morphine and things, but she went through a phase, because I was still feeding her myself, and we were just weaning her at the time, because she was just 6 months. She didn't want to feed from me. I thought it was because, you know, she didn't want to be around because she blamed me. It was probably more to do with the fact that I wasn't holding her properly because I was so scared to hold her, because I knew exactly what was underneath the bandages. But the nurses were very confident and they said, you know, don't worry, you need to just try and be as normal as you can around her. But of course I just felt so guilty. I was just sobbing all the time.
Also, this will be sending out a warning. If many of you are thinking, oh my goodness, just say that had happened to me, would you panic? How would you respond under the circumstances? Dawn's here to give you not only advice on that, but also to talk us through some things that may help to protect around the house.
Absolutely, and there are, I bet you've got all the gadgets and gizmos. But I mean, there are things. For example, you know, you've got toddlers around, you can get a Perspex guard to go on your hob so that they can't actually put their hands onto a hot surface.
Oh, that's good.
And so
have you thought about these sort of things, Emma?
Well, yeah, I mean, hearing stories about this, it really triggers in your head
other things you can have, and I'm sure you've probably got one now, you can actually get something that you clip onto a buggy that will hold a hot drink.
I have one of those, actually.
Actually, where we've got it here, you know, you can imagine that that could still actually go over the child if you tip the buggy slightly on an uneven surface.
She would like that, what, further down?
A bit further down and perhaps facing backwards, but that's a good way of keeping it away from the child, so that if you did trip, you're safe. And if you've got a really mischievous toddler, you can get things like guards that go over the knobs of your hob so that they can't actually inadvertently turn the hob on. So those are all the kind of things that you can think about at home. You know, children are all different. One of mine was an absolute nightmare, and we had every lock we possibly could because he would eat or drink whatever he could get his hands on.
Look, as we bring on Georgia herself, we say hello to her and bring her in here, and she's with her brother, and you're involved in charity work now, of course, which we were talking about with all of this. But come on, guys. The main thing is, though, in terms of tips, if this happens to anyone, Dawn, in terms of panic. Hello, Georgia.
Hi.
Is this Sebastian?
Yes.
Good seeing
Big brother, and you were a bit of a hero on the day, I gather, weren't you?
Yes, a hero.
Come and take a seat, Seb.
What about the idea of using cold water and panic and all that?
I've got a few bits and bobs here because actually panic, you know, obviously your reaction is a panic, but you need to stay as calm as you possibly can.
What is the process with clothes? Should you remove them immediately?
Right. Remove the clothes, because most clothes have got fibres that can get stuck into a weeping wound, and that will interfere with the healing process. You were completely right about not using dirty water. You know, our skin is our greatest protection against infection. As soon as that's broken, we're at risk. So you need to remove the clothes, cool it, either under a cold tap or, you know, I think every household should have a cooling gel.
Under a cold tap for how long?
10 minutes if you're going to do
10
that.
minutes. Now,
or
10 minutes would feel like a long time. It is a long time.
Time it. You know, it feels like forever, and you would do it, you would give up.
Guys, thank you very much.
Thank you
It'll have
so much.
everybody thinking, because, you know, pots and kettles will be going on for lunchtime, whatever it is. Faye and Sebastian, thank you very much indeed as well. Georgia, thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to take a break. We're back after the news. Don't go away.